Financial resilience is something that all of us need to take seriously. It's that ability to get through life's toughest times. And whilst I'd love to say, bounce back, at least just get through when life is knocking you hardest. There are three elements of financial resilience that applies to everybody. The first is that you need to make sure that you have at least 3 to 6 months of funds that can take you through a difficult period. Like, for example, if you get retrenched, or if there is an unexpected bump, a child that needs to go to hospital, a car that gets written off or needs extensive work, something that really is going to knock your finances. What I generally find tends to happen is that people are just getting to a stage where they're financially fine and strong, and then life happens and it bounces them back into debt, into borrowing from friends, family, or taking money from their mortgage. It just really is something that does happen, and it does knock people. So the first step of financial resilience is to make sure that you have at least 3 to 6 months of after-tax expenses that is sitting inside your bank account. Now, for most people, that takes 3 to 4 years to save up, because we need the money that we currently have. So it's no point saying, well, that's so long and it's not going to make effect. Every single month that you can save a little bit extra towards that financial resilience pot is a month that I think is really worth putting in the effort. Now, that pot for me is something that should sit in a money market account. The challenge with putting it in a notice account is that when you need it, these types of events, you generally tend to need money immediately. You can't be giving 30 days of notice. So it needs to be in a money market account that you can access. But you need to be extremely strict with yourself as to accessing that money. It has to be only for financial emergencies. And one of the things that I found about financial emergencies is, unfortunately, they never seem to come in ones. They always seem to come in more than once. You get retrenched, you have a crash in your car, and then one of your children gets sick. So it's really important that you make sure that you are diligent about, if you should need to use this money, that you immediately save to put that money back. The next element of financial resilience is that you need to have a will. And in almost every single country in the world, if you die without a will, you die intestate, which means that you die by the law of the country. So all of your hard-earned money ends up being governed by the law. And a really important element of this in almost every single country is what happens to money that's supposed to go to minor children. So if both you and your partner are taken out in a car crash and the money is to go to minor children, in most countries it'll actually end up going into a government fund. Now, that's fine if your government manages money well and gets great returns on their investment, but if your government doesn't, it's really important that you make sure that your will sets up for the provision of minor children into a trust. That way, the children's money is protected and managed by people you know and trust, and is also enabled to be given to them at a time that most suits when they're able to deal with financial challenges, such as 25 or 30. So that's the second most important thing. Firstly, that you have an emergency fund set up, and secondly, that you have a will that governs your passing. The last part that you really need to make sure you have is life insurance. Now, life insurance is something that most people either have too much of or too little of. So understanding the purpose of life insurance is really important. The first and most important thing that life insurance does is that it gives your spouse or your surviving partner, your children, quick access to money. What happens when you die is that your money gets locked up in an estate, and basically that's the government making sure that you've paid all your taxes, all your debts, and that the money goes to the right people. And that can be a quick amount of time in some governments, but in other governments where there's administrative challenges, this can take 2 to 4 or 5 years. So you need to make sure that there's money that can be immediately available. I've had clients where they have a lot of money, but the wife is unable to put petrol in the car or draw money for the funeral because all of their money is in joint accounts. And you cannot have a physical bank account or a financial account with a dead person. That's why it's important that there is some money that is available for the immediate period after a person passes. The next thing that life insurance does is it provides for the paying of expenses. When you die, you're deemed to have sold your property, which means that you're going to pay capital gains tax on all of your property when you pass. The other thing is that you need to pay death taxes. And in some countries, that's an extremely high amount of money. And so if, for example, your only asset is your house, you're going to end up leaving your spouse to sell the house to pay the taxes. And that's not a position you want to put a person in. So as I said, the first reason you have life insurance is for what we call liquidity, the ability to get access to cash. The second reason you have life insurance is to pay for the bills and the taxes that come when you die. And the last reason is to make sure that you provide for your family, for the education and needs that your kids might have. Now that's where life insurance becomes something that might be optional. Because if you have sufficient funds already saved away for your family, then you shouldn't need extra life insurance. You have to be able to settle all of your debt first, pay all of your taxes, and then what's left can be used by your partner. So, although not an easy topic, a hugely important one, that you make sure that you sort your financial affairs. You do not want the government to be managing the money on behalf of your children. Rather get trusted advisors. You do not want to be using your hard-earned capital to fund life's knocks. Rather make sure that you have an emergency fund. And you do not want your partner to be grieving you and then need to worry about where her next penny is going to come from because her bank account is shut. Take care, have a great week. I'm Lisa Linfield.